Dumb fun.
Somehow, heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
Musical the Movie the Podcast. Musical the Movie the Podcast. Musical the Movie the Podcast with Andy and Steph. Attend the tale of Musical the Movie the Podcast. Welcome in to episode 5.
It's episode 5, and we're
That's
talking about Mr. Sweeney Todd himself.
Full title, please.
Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
That's
Something
right.
You will not hear said in this movie.
That's right. There was no titular line in this movie, Steph.
You hate to see it.
You hate to see it. Steph, I guess let's just jump right into it on this one.
I think that sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. So this week, we're talking about Sweeney Todd. Let's start with you, Steph. What is your relationship to Stephen Sondheim's Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street?
So I think the first important thing to say about my relationship to Stephen Sondheim is that he is the one musical composer who consistently gives me ASMR when I listen to him. I get physical chills because just the way that he builds those chords and swells everything, it very much speaks to my weird little neurodivergent brain. So the first Sondheim play that I loved was Sunday in the Park with George, which I loved because I saw it. I saw a Kenosha Bradford High School production of it that made me cry. They were so good.
Wow. Shout out to KBHF.
I was a junior and we drove an hour and a half to see it. And then it was so magical. And then I think there was a snowstorm or something. It was very much it would be a chapter of the YA book about my childhood.
So did they have to do the play again because you guys were all snowed in?
Because we were stuck there and they had to entertain us.
They're like, all right, from Act 1.
Yeah, so that was my friend, and then I was hooked, and that was that would have been 2003 or 2004, and then in just a couple years later comes this movie, and so I, for that reason, get into Sweeney Todd, and around the same time see a brilliant stage adaptation of it, which I think is one of the new standards where all of the characters play instruments and the pit orchestra is just in the middle of the stage, and most distinctively Joanna plays the cello, I think.
Wow.
It's distinctive, I think.
That's wild to me.
And it's beautiful. And I saw that right around the same time as the movie, and I remember thinking, oh wow, it was one of the first things where I was I don't know which one I liked better.
Yeah,
because this movie nailed it, but
right.
Also that show was really good, and now we're here.
Okay.
That's my whole relationship. What about you?
This is actually one that goes back for me. This is one that I knew before I saw the movie, which is not common on this podcast. But I got to give it up to my the theater director at Christian Brothers High School in Memphis, Tennessee, Brother Michael Livaday. Eagle-eared listeners will remember him as the person who cast me as one of the 5 senses in Everyman. But he taught a theater appreciation class, which I took as an elective my junior or senior year. And he showed us a number of things. And one of the things, if you're trying to get an all-male high school theater appreciation class interested in theater, what do you show them? The play where people are killed and put into pies, right? And so he showed us what I now know is the original Broadway production with Lynn Cariou and Angela Lansbury. Angela Lansbury just kills it as Mrs. Lovett. She's incredible. You've never seen Angela Lansbury so insane as she is as Mrs. Lovett. It's great. So from high school, I was way into this play. I've never seen it live to this day, but it is also a plot point in another movie I saw in theaters called Jersey Girl, starring Ben Affleck and J-Lo and some other people. Where
how dare you?
It's an emotional climax of Jersey Girl involves his daughter performing Sweeney Todd at her school talent show. It's whatever, but suffice to say, I see this movie in theaters when it comes out because I'm so excited because I've loved this play for so long. And at the time, I felt bored by some of it, and specifically the Anthony and Joanna parts. We're not really speaking. But rewatching it for this, in my mind, that was 40% of the movie. But rewatching it for this, it's really only two scenes maybe that it goes on a little too long. So yeah, I mean, I was a big fan of this when we rewatched it. I hadn't watched it in a while, and when we rewatched it for this podcast, I really thought it was tight. Like it takes everything from the musical and chops it where it needs to be chopped. It makes things shorter where they need to be shorter. And yeah, I loved it.
I love it. Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's bring in our guest then.
Well, I want to introduce a guest first.
Yeah, now Steph, we always have a theater guest and a comedy guest, but we're double dipping this week.
Yeah, like both of these folks are really both of these things. And frankly, I'm just so excited to talk about this movie. I think it's the perfect movie for this combo. So our first guest is Chicago-based comedian Jamie Schreiner. She's our first guest who has written a musical, which I am very impressed by. And also Andy took me to see on like our third date, and it was a very good third date.
Oh, that's not even the musical I was thinking of. That was a one-woman show, which I guess is technically a musical. Do you consider that a musical, Jamie?
Like I consider it more like it's the book, it's not the score, because I didn't write those songs. Like I changed the lyrics.
But you have also written a musical where you wrote the songs. You are a songwriter too.
Yes.
And what's that called?
It's called Wife Material. The full cast recording is available on Spotify. But yeah, no, I wrote Wife Material, and that's kind of why I ended up starting to do musical comedy, because I wrote the songs for that, and I was like, oh, I guess this is something I can do.
I'm going to introduce our other guest real quick. He is one of the great comedians of this country. When I moved to Chicago, he had an open mic that was like one of the places to be. Like if you can imagine an open mic being a hot spot, this dude did it. It was called Two Black Dudes in an Open Mic. He went on to New York, where he inherited the Knitting Factory show from Hannibal Buress. He's back here in Chicago, and it's such a joy for us because we get to see him all the time. It's Clark Jones, everybody. Clark, how are you?
Hello, everyone.
And I guess I'll go ahead and mention off the top too that you have a chunk of your stand-up that is about Sweeney Todd.
It is.
Yeah.
And Stephanie, like, I have this weird thing with, it's almost a affliction. If you mention somebody, I have to talk like them to a certain degree.
Okay.
So you said ASMR with Stephen Sondheim, so I may slip into an impression here and there. And I just want to go in.
I don't hate it.
Directly to it. And make it succinct and sing to them. Not me. Sing to them. It's her. Amy is your bride.
I wish that people could see that, like, Clark's face is like has the perfect angle to it, and his eyes are closed. It's just
and the half smile. It's a strong smile, but it's only half of his face that he smiles with, and it's so warm to get direction. I wish I could get any type of direction from the late great Stephen Sondheim.
I don't know that I've ever heard Sondheim speak, and so the only voice of his that I know is Bradley Whitford and Tick Tick Boom.
That's hilarious. Did they mention him by name in the mockumentary, the Broadway Now? John Mulaney.
I don't know.
I don't think they mentioned him by name, but they were doing. John was doing an impression. The word is ruined. It's not ruined. It's ruined.
I guess let's start with Jamie. Do you want to tell us about what your relationship is to Sweeney Todd?
So I would say
it starts with a sigh.
Like as a theater artist, the first time I saw it live and like listened to the soundtrack, I was like, oh crap! Like I want to do what she's doing. I want to do that part. Like I think Mrs. Lovett is such an interesting role. And then in college, I got to be Mrs. Lovett. In a scene study class, I had to do like a Little Priest and like whichever one, like the two duets that are. Well, there's more than two, but like two of the major ones between Mrs. Lovett and Sweeney Todd. And that kind of like, I still love Sweeney Todd, but it negatively affected my relationship with it a little bit because my scene partner was a real asshole. And I'm hard of hearing, but I didn't know it at the time. So I remember being in the practice room and having him like, I kept getting it like a half step flat and I couldn't hear that I was doing it wrong. And he's like, it's, why can't you fucking get it? It's, and like, he wasn't warm and nice like Sondheim. So that's my memory of Sweeney Todd now. It's just but I love it. It's a great show.
Did you see this movie in theaters? Do you know?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And I don't want to give away too much my opinion of it. I loved it. It's just like she's not gonna be Angela Lansbury. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't do what Angela did.
I get that.
When you're Helena Bonham Carter. It's like they served up oranges on a roll that I think should be apples. That's the best way to put it. It's hard to even be upset because it's like she was never going to bring to that role what Angela did.
But like, would you have rather had post-Murder, She Wrote Angela Lansbury in that role?
No, like Emma Thompson even. Like
Wow,
just a different actress entirely. It's somebody who is a little more camp.
All right. We'll talk about recasting it a little later in the show. Clark, what about you? When did you first come into contact with Sweeney Todd?
First of all, I know Jamie was such a brilliant theater critic as well. She served apples when we wanted oranges. I've never heard such phraseology. I was first introduced to the production. My college girlfriend went to see it by herself, which was normal for us. We just, sometimes we would just do things without each other so we could get some space. And so that was my introduction to it. Then I dated a woman.
That's so much more mature of a relationship thing to do than most people in college do.
Yeah, like 19,
no kidding.
we were just going to movies by ourselves and just, living a life outside of our apartment. So she saw it, she enjoyed it. I was like, oh, I should go see that one day. Never did. I started dating another woman years later, and she said she wanted to show me 2 movies. One of them was Sweeney Todd. The other was Eternal Sunshine. And
wow. The year was 2007.
I think so. I think they might have nailed it. It was streaming, or it was on video or DVD, so it might have been the year right after that. It might have been 2008. And she just was intent on us watching it and her like kind of coaching me through it to explain what was going on, because I didn't get anything at all. And so her explaining it I owe that joke really to her that I do in my act, because she's the one who kind of turned the light switch on to the musical.
Do you feel like you were really sticking it to your other ex by watching it with your new girlfriend?
If she still talked to me at the time, I think I may have brought it up, but she wasn't hit as hard by it, but she enjoyed it. But this other woman was really, really into it. Both Geminis, very, very. I don't know why they love Sweeney Todd, but they get it. And I only mentioned that.
I'm immediately texting every Gemini I know.
Every Gemini is logging in now when they hear this. Their sixth sense.
This play is about the duality, isn't it? It's about how it takes
two
to tango.
It is.
The dark and the light.
At the same time. Yeah, it's a twinning.
Well, before we jump into the plot, let me give a little history here. So the character of Sweeney Todd as a murderous barber originates in like 1846 in penny dreadfuls that go around Victoria, England, in these little like paperback horror stories. And then in 1973, this guy who's basically an actor writes it as a play, and Stephen Sondheim sees it and makes it into a musical that opens on Broadway in 1979, starring Lynn Carreyrou and Angela Lansbury. On opening night, this guy, Harold Clurman, who was a big theater critic at the time, goes to the manager of the Metropolitan Opera, and he demands to know why it was not on at the Met. And the guy who runs the Met says, I would have put it on if they had brought it to me, because this is a modern opera. And like everyone would have been pissed about it. I don't care. This is an opera. So then it's the early 2000s, and Sam Mendes, the director of American Beauty, is developing a movie of it. I love to Sam Mendes, but he leaves it in 2005 to direct Jarhead. And Tim Burton, who at the time was developing a project that just sounds terrible, based on Ripley's Believe It or Not, with starring Jim Carrey as Robert Ripley, that falls apart because it goes over budget. How? But thank God it does, and that leads him somehow to Sweeney Todd, which is a play he had seen on Broadway and loved, and talked to Sondheim about adapting in the 80s when he got big after Batman and stuff. And finally he comes back to it in like 2005 and starts adapting it. Johnny Depp had to do a vocal audition for Stephen Sondheim because Stephen Sondheim thought he would be too rock and roll. Helena Bonham Carter sent 12 audition tapes to Sondheim to seek his approval and to combat any rumor of nepotism. And then the only other audition note I have is that Sacha Baron Cohen sings the entire score of Fiddler on the Roof for Tim Burton.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that fact.
I love making the director's wife audition 12 times.
Yeah.
It just makes it.
It seems like it's something that she did because she didn't want to be the director's wife, despite the fact that this is like her 7th Tim Burton movie that she's in.
It's like Hillary Clinton.
I don't want to do this.
Being a senator.
Yeah, she's going to be the Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland right after this. So I don't know how many tapes she sent to Lewis Carroll for that.
I will give her credit though. I mean, she is the one after. To me, it's of the big three. It's Angela Lansbury, Helena Bonham Carter, then Patti LuPone.
Ooh.
As far as portrayals.
See, I've
my
never
opinion.
seen Patti LuPone do it.
Yeah, man. The old musical theater Twitter got on my ass because I apparently this woman Patti LuPone is untouchable, but she is. I wish she didn't touch the role of second lead in Sweeney Todd.
I wonder that's maybe the first time that we've said Patti LuPone's name on our musical podcast, which is wild. I'm sure it'll come up. We'll do a veto one day and talk about how she's not in it.
So it is 1846. Mr. Sweeney Todd, played by Johnny Depp, arrives in London on a tall ship, accompanied by the waify sailor Anthony Hope, played by Jamie Campbell Bower. And we learn that 15 years earlier, Todd was Benjamin Barker, falsely convicted and exiled to Australia by the cruel and corrupt Judge Turpin, Alan Rickman, in just... I mean, we're going to talk about Alan Rickman.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, so you want to talk about Alan Rickman?
No, I actually want to talk about how the first shot of this movie is Jamie Campbell Bower, and he's a sailor on a boat, and he steps up and he's singing about London. It's almost as if it's almost like an ode to like musicals like New York, New York, or something like that, where it seems like this is going to be a sailor singing about how beautiful London is, and then Sweeney Todd steps into the frame, and the music goes dark. And Sweeney Todd starts singing about what a pit of shit London is. And it's just this great fake out moment at the very beginning.
I did appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
I think the word wafy in the plot description, I've not heard that used in a while, so that was fun. No, I missed the opening number. I understand why it didn't work for film. I understand. I think everything that I have a critique about is going to come back to like, I'm the same as those obnoxious people who are like, the book is just better than the movie. It's just better than the, yeah.
Well, okay. So I was thinking about the same thing, Jamie, and how, like, I didn't mention it here, but we do get an opening credits with the overture that's like sort of the opening stage number, like translated to orchestra, and it's illustrated with like the bloodiest CGI.
It's so CGI though. It's heavy.
So
CGI.
Again, the year is
it's
2007.
It's not the same as live. When I was talking to Jamie last night, having the chorus behind you in the audience.
Oh yeah.
Surprisingly, like they come in after everything is started, and all of a sudden you're in the world because they're placed not on stage but behind you. I also want to say, like in this intro, forgive my ignorance on this, but you get to see how great Sondheim is in interweaving two different songs within the same piece. So you have Sweeney coming in holding the wall with the Great Black Pit, but then I too have sailed. Like the musical changes are just like seamless in a lot of his songs. My Friends too, how he goes back between that and yeah, like just all those changes they just flow perfectly.
And then I should mention, we haven't said it outright. There is, an opening number in the play that is "Attend the Tale of Sweeney Todd," the chorus basically singing what's going to happen. There is a direct quote from Tim Burton where he specifically says about cutting that. He's like, I hate in musicals when people are like, "Attend the Tale of Sweeney Todd." He's like, you can just attend it. You're there. Just attend it.
That is true. That is fair. We did download it off Netflix when they still sold DVDs. We're there. We paid the ticket.
Yeah.
We are attending the tale. That's very funny.
I think the thing is also like when I say like, oh, books are like the stage show is better than the film version. I think I also just have to like accept and embrace the fact that like it is a Tim Burton movie. Like a lot of the choices that I'm like, it's taking from what Sweeney Todd was. It's because it's a Tim Burton movie. Because I feel like Tim Burton, all of his movies, in the fact that they're dark and sinister, they kind of take themselves a bit seriously. This is a fucking musical. Like, even if it's a dramatic musical, I don't think any musical can take itself too seriously. And that's part of my brain is like, well, yeah, it is cringe and it is like dumb to go attend the Tale of Sweeney Todd. But that's kind of why we're here. Like, that's what we signed up for when we came to see a musical.
See, for me, that's what the adaptation is all about. Like, you're taking it to a movie so you can cut out that stuff. Something Steph and I fight about all the time is when they finally make a Hamilton movie, will they leave in the chorus going New York City 1776? And I'm like, no, you can just put that as a super at the bottom of the screen.
No,
and
no,
you don't need to
you
have the chorus do
absolutely
that.
cannot take out
You
the
could
chorus
just
doing
CGI
that.
a sign. A street
Yeah.
sign. So people know.
Yeah, but then the sign is gonna sing in 3-part harmony whispers.
That's true. That's true.
But then also, are they going to do, how does a bastard, or how is that going to translate to film? Is it just going to be him walking towards the camera, slow motion, like a music video? And then like the camera cuts to like, I died for him. I loved him. Like, how are they going to do that one?
You know, we haven't talked about the movie Rent yet, and this is like my number one complaint about the movie Rent, but I actually do think, like, apart from, I hate their total absence, but like apart from that part of the absence, I do really like how this adaptation doesn't make everyone just like talk where they would be singing on the stage. Like, it keeps the way that the music like goes in and out of the speech, so it just all feels very organic, and I think it does that really well. So Judge Turpin was lusting after Barker's wife Lucy, and that's why he sent him to Australia. Now he has escaped from prison. He's returned to London and adopted the alias Sweeney Todd. He returns to his old Fleet Street shop, which lives above Mrs. Nellie Lovett's meat pie shop, where she sells, quote, the worst pies in London.
I'm really enamored of Helena Bonham Carter here. I think she's so funny. And, you know, if you've never seen Angela Lansbury, if you're just going in to see a movie, like, I think she does the trick. I think that she's charming, and the way that she has a naturalisticness, that's not a word at all, but she has a naturalisticness about her that like is so hard to come by in acting, and that she can like toss off these lines. So funny to me. I don't know.
To her credit, like, I think she really set the tone of Mrs. Lovett as desperate.
Yeah.
And she performed it in a way that gave a lot of credence to Angela Lansbury's character, where even in her solo, it's about something else.
Well, I was just going to quickly piggyback off of what he was saying. Like, when I said the apple orange juice thing, like, that is really how I feel. Like, it's just like, having seen Angela Lansbury's performance, I was used to like an apple performance with the role, and she did a really great orange. I think for me, it was just like, I was like, oh, I didn't know I wanted an orange here, but it's a great orange. Like, I can't just feel what she did. It's really good. It's just not
right.
Like best. It's not what I like the best.
It's not that golden delicious.
If I had a choice, I would pick the apple. That's all.
If I had seen the live version first, I would be less impressed with the movie. Yeah. So I get it, and that's just from enjoying the live thing. But I had seen the movie so many times. I'm like, oh, hey, this is the definitive thing. And then to see A Little Priest in its entirety is a whole different thing. It's so many, like, how did he come up with that many puns?
I know.
For one subject? You got to at least YouTube the full song.
Okay, so Mrs. Lovett is very in love with Sweeney Todd. And she gives him the gossip that when he was, she figures out that it's him, and gives him the gossip that when he was exiled, Judge Turpin drugged and raped Lucy, who then poisoned herself with arsenic. And Turpin kept their daughter, Joanna, as his ward. And so Todd vows revenge and reopens his barbershop. Meanwhile, Wafey Anthony, what I've written here is feels and then crossed it out and then says becomes enamored with Joanna. And we get some exposition about her from a beggar woman. And then Anthony is caught by Judge Turpin and driven away by his henchman, Beetle Bamford. I feel like this is like the act one end. Like, we've met all of our people now.
Act one of the movie.
Of the movie, yes.
In movie acts, not in play acts.
In five act structure.
In 5-act structure. So I love how in all these shots where Sweeney gets his razors back and he's singing about his friends to them, and in all these shots, Helena Bonham Carter is behind him out of focus, just like clinging to him and longing for him.
Yes.
It's so good, and the desperation is so stinky. I love it.
Yep.
So then Anthony, for some reason, falls in love with Joanna from a window.
That's all it takes.
That's all it
you know.
Yeah.
All it takes. That blonde hair draping like Rapunzel.
Like in Into the Woods, he says hair is yellow as corn, and like this time he's like yellow as wheat. I'm like, Sondheim loves
There's
to
a-
talk about hair being yellow when
This
it's
guy's got a
blonde.
type.
he loves a blonde, man. That's his thing. Clearly, instantly smitten is this young man fresh off a boat.
He
I guess
feels
that
her.
makes sense. It's the first woman he's seen in 2 years, probably.
Yeah, just around prisoners or escapees.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, has Greenfinch and Linnetbird happened yet by this point?
Yeah, this is where we get it.
What's your thoughts
I-
on Greenfinch and Lindenberg?
I really like that song. I think that, like, for me, I think the actress who played it brought like such a youthfulness to it. That's one of the things that I do appreciate about the film version versus like in stage shows, we always have people who are too old to play a teenager playing a teenager. The way the girl did this, it read like an actual teenager. Like, she didn't overdo it. Sometimes you see that song done and they're like, if I cannot fly, let me sit. And that's one where I'm like, you're doing too much when they do all
Yeah.
that. And I feel like she did just enough. I feel like honestly probably the opposite to Andy. I love the Anthony and Joanna in the movie. I think that they nailed
I'm like
it.
fast forward.
You're like,
This girl who plays Joanna and the kid that plays Toby, this is pretty much like the last thing they do, like the first and last thing. Grand opening, grand closing. It's the last thing they do on their IMDb pages.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, really?
Yeah. And it's so weird. I was telling Steph, it's so weird because Tim Burton's next movie is Alice in Wonderland, where he casts a woman who looks exactly like this girl to play Alice. And it's just like, how much do you have to hate that girl who played Joanna to cast someone who
did
looks
she
just
do?
like her?
all you do is cast the same people over and over again.
Exactly.
She made one suggestion and he could not have it.
How many times have you filmed Johnny Depp fucking your wife? Because a lot.
Mm.
And yet you just cannot put this woman in another movie. All right.
All right.
cool, Tim. Cool.
Is it right away that Judge Turpin invites Anthony into his house?
Yeah, and he has just like, this is the first time that we see him not in someone else's memory, so like not like representing a story, and he just goes on this like creepy screed about like sex workers through history, and that's it. That's what we
I
see.
could
of
show
him.
your books that have numerous positions you have never imagined. He wants to show the Kama Sutra, basically.
This is the first time we see Lucy too, yes?
As the beggar, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, spoiler alert if you don't know.
Spoiler alert for 30 minutes from now.
This whole episode is a spoiler alert.
Yeah, that's true. No, I know. That's but the if you're not, I do recommend you watch this movie at least. But if you're not, and you're just listening to this, the beggar who came up to Anthony on the street
yeah,
will turn out to be no. That we spoil the whole thing. The beggar will turn out to be Lucy, who is Todd's estranged wife, who he thinks is dead.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, Anthony is. It's hard to. I mean, he's my least favorite. He's kind of a villain in a way for me. I think he's talented, but he's the foil, obviously.
Tell me about how he's kind of a villain.
Well, he fumbled the first murder attempt.
That's true.
With his anxiousness, and he also is like, relax, man. Like, I'll steal you. What are you talking about? what makes Anthony better than Judge Turpin?
That's
True.
fair.
I mean, well, he has not raped anyone on camera.
We don't know if he wouldn't. He's Judge Turpin without the power or the muscle. So
That's
he's
true.
a weak Judge Turpin.
Judge Turpin was probably out crooning outside people's windows when he was a little boy.
Yeah, and then he was like, "I'll just become a judge.
Yeah.
Then I can
Then I
get
can
rid of
cancel.
the guy."
Especially
Yeah.
now, I'm sure after all this, he's going to write a book and everything. That's going to
He's
catapult
gotta-
him
it's
right
a
to the
whole
political
thing.
races.
It's a whole thing. He never asked Joanna if she's singing about birds. Nothing about, oh, I need a man. It was all, she did not ask for any of this.
Now, she does eventually toss a key out to him, which he somehow misses. He just somehow does not catch it.
Yeah.
This merchant of the sea
Yeah.
just can't catch a key.
Yeah.
Can't catch a key.
Like, aren't y'all
Can't catch
tossing
a key.
fish and stuff to each other all the time on the boat?
Fish, sea bass, whatever.
Ropes.
Yeah.
Ropes. Just
Can't catch
and
a
he's
key.
he's so wafy to be someone who works with his hands.
Yeah. Little
Just gonna
sailor
blow
boy.
away.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
string him up there if they need a sail.
Yeah, he's a flag.
He's a flag.
A red flag. He's a red flag.
They're a flag.
I just feel conflicted about Alan Rickman in this movie because it's like Alan Rickman's zaddy, but he's like so bad in this. He's like he's bad in like not in a hot way. He's bad in just a bad way. Like he's just gross. I love him because it's Alan Rickman, but then the things that's coming out of his mouth, I'm like, oh no.
It's like, and he's because he's so talented, he really does make you feel so gross. And right, and not in like an enjoyable way. Just
there's a moment I really like. My favorite Alan Rickman moment in this movie. It's later, but I'm gonna talk about it now. It's when he sends Joanna away, and Anthony runs up to him on his doorstep, and he says, "If you hurt her, I swear I'll." And Rickman goes, "You'll what? Kill me? Here I stand.
Here I stand, boy."
Yeah. He's just like, do something. I dare you. Fuck with me.
Yeah, it's like that man has never had to atone or pay for any of his actions. At that moment, you're like, yeah, no, like he's not worried about it.
Alan Rickman taught me the word rue instead of regret. I have to use that instead of regret now because of how, just impactful he was. It's also a credit to the Beatle to outgross Alan Rickman. That's not easy to outgross him. And
Peter Pettigrew.
That is Peter Pettigrew. Yeah. What is his name? I'm blanking. Timothy Spall. That's his name.
They were like a duo because they were together in.
Yeah, this is Snape and Pettigrew together again.
Yeah, they're like a comedy team with drama.
I feel bad for the Beatle guy. I'm sorry. They just keep making him be like even grosser. Like in Harry Potter, he's like in Harry Potter, he literally is like a rat that comes to life, and he's like, just can he be like the handsome romantic lead?
Nope. That's where you lost me. As soon as can he be the handsome? Nope. You are fired. You'll never work in this town again. You, Joanna, the little wave flag boy, you're done.
Now you should look up his son, Rafe Spall, is kind of a babe. He is in Life of Pi, and he's in Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, and he's got daddy energy. As you said that, Jamie, that how disgusting he is, I had to look up something that I remembered from the end of the movie where Todd asks the Beetle what his scent is, and he says it's a bit of ambergris. Anyway, I looked it up what ambergris is, and it's a solid waxy substance originating in the intestine of the sperm whale.
Ew.
But yes, his son is daddy. His son is definitely daddy. Yeah. I looked him up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He must have married somebody hot. That kid is cute.
Ambergris. And that's Johnny Depp's old wife.
Ambergris.
Ambergris.
Oh, I don't endorse that joke.
We edited that.
That's what Johnny Depp was wiping off his pillow. A little bit of ambergris.
Oh my God. You shall rue the day you make it.
Yeah, I was trying
Tribute to Rickman. All right, Steph, I know we got Pirelli right around the corner.
Oh, yeah, he's here. So
yes.
We're at some kind of market. And you know how a market has barbers. And Todd quaff fights with the foppish Adolfo Pirelli, played by Sacha Baron Cohen. Is this his first stunt musical casting? It's such a great choice.
It's like his first casting outside Borat, like pretty much at all. And it's also like he's hot off Borat at the time.
Oh wow, okay, this was after Borat.
Yeah. Okay. Borat has just taken the nation by storm, and this is like his first big thing after that.
So he can do an art project.
Yeah, exactly. One for them, one for me.
Yep. To that point, though, when I ran for student government in college, based off seeing just that scene, I did set up 2 barbers who did like free haircuts on campus. While it was like Clark Jones Day, and I just like took over the campus, and we had barbers and T-shirts and vendors and stuff like that. So
that's incredible. What college?
That sounds very effective.
This is Morehouse College in Atlanta.
All right. So Sacha Baron Cohen comes out. He's doing an Italian accent, and it's so hammy. It's so fun. Like this. I think I looked in this. No one of note has ever really played this role on Broadway. So this is like in a movie, you can take someone who is more famous and stick them in something like this. And he's just really hamming it up. My favorite, I think maybe my favorite joke in this movie is when he says that he once shaved the Pope. And you may say it was a cardinal, but no, it was the Pope. And to illustrate that, he has an autographed etching of the Pope, which is signed, "Thanks for the shave, the Pope."
It needed that comedy moment. It needed that to balance out Tim Burton and CGI.
That's whole thing is like I feel like Sasha fully embodied like because it is such a heavy subject matter of like they're fucking cooking people into pies. Like I think everything around that
We need that little levity. The
we need the levity. And I just I would have loved more of it than just Sasha, but I was glad that we at least got it in his portrayal. I'm glad that they let him do what I think more people should have gotten opportunities to do.
But so he's trying to hawk this miracle elixir that'll grow hair, and Todd challenges him to a shave off, which he handily wins. He shaves an entire face while Pirelli's hitting a high note. And it's sort of just...
The winner is Todd.
The winner is Todd, says Beetle Bamford. I would not be doing my due diligence as a Buffy fan if I did not point out that Anthony Stewart Head, who played Giles on Buffy, comes up to Todd on the street and asks him about his shop and how can I come to your shop and everything. The reason that he is there, I found out, is because originally there was going to be a chorus of the ghosts of victims of Sweeney Todd that was going to be Christopher Lee and Anthony Stewart Head and some other people, and they had to cut it, which I think is great. I think it would have been a little out of place, honestly. But basically, like, they had to stop down filming for a couple weeks because Johnny Depp's daughter got sick. And it was in that time they basically lost the ability to have this ghost chorus. Even though they had recorded parts for it and everything, they lost the ability to film them. And I'm pretty glad about that.
Dang, I would watch that production though.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I will watch the full production of The Ghost.
I also didn't mention Toby, who is Pirelli's assistant, the wee Toby lad. So Toby is being abused by Pirelli, and then a couple days after the shave off, they both show up at the shop, and Pirelli identifies himself as Todd's former assistant, Davy Collins.
You don't remember me, do you?
we get that instant drop of the accent. It's perfect. This is why you get Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah, even rewatching it, I was like, why did they cast Sacha Baron Cohen to play this Italian? And then I forgot that he was going to drop the Italian accent, be Davy Collins in it.
Yeah, and he's a guy who used to work in the shop sweeping up hair, apparently. He was a little apprentice.
He was a wee assistant.
Benjamin Barker.
It's a great name to shout out dramatically.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I know.
So they're going to keep Toby busy downstairs by plying him with gin.
Oh, man.
This 10-year-old child.
And doilies. Ew.
And doilies of pie.
And this is also where we get our first murder. Pirelli / Davy tries to blackmail Todd, and his rage comes out, and he bludgeons him unconscious with a tea kettle, hides him in a trunk, and then slits his throat. It's very like, I guess it's very horror movie in that like we go from like not much or just sort of like teasers of blood and shock, and then like in one fell swoop, it's like, yes, here's the murder show.
Yeah. Yep. And in case we were like still hung up on the ethics of it, Miss Lovett finds out that he was trying to blackmail him and says, oh, okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. The desperation comes out for her need for money and Todd.
And Toby.
And Toby. And even Toby, I mean, if Toby gets in the way of money and Todd, he can go too.
As we found out.
Yeah, we see that, right?
But those things she takes Pirelli's purse.
Yeah, which is that's an amateur hour to me. Just get the money out of it.
Right? She's supposed to be like the Lady McBadward and not and she's just loving it.
Steph doesn't let us say the name of the Scottish play in our home.
Not in my house. No.
Really?
Yeah, it's cursed.
Wow. What did the movie? You didn't like the movie?
I did kind of like the movie, actually.
Yeah. But every time I was like, okay, do you want to watch that movie? Or actually, I would call it the Scottish movie.
The Scottish movie.
Scottish movie.
That's okay.
Good. Yeah, that's funny.
Anyway, yeah, Mrs. Lovett's first murder down.
Yeah.
And then then
Todd has his epiphany, basically, where he's
so next Judge Turpin visits Todd for grooming, and he's like decided that he's going to marry Joanna that day, And Todd is like, hell yes, this is my chance. I'm gonna murder him, and like seduces him into the chair. And they have this like lovely counterpoint moment, but like we know that they're both feeling sort of opposite things. It's just juicy irony.
They're both singing about pretty women.
Yeah.
That's the name of the song here, Pretty Women. And this is, so I do want to talk about Johnny Depp's voice for just one second, because I love Johnny Depp's growl in this movie. I think his growl is perfect. And when he starts to go a little high, that's not Sweeney Todd to me. That's to me, that's the thing that Stephen Sondheim was worried about. And I don't know if you guys feel that same way, or if you...
Well, my issue with Johnny Depp's voice for this role is that it's like, now in musical theater, all of the lead roles are primarily tenors. Like Sweeney Todd was one of the last good like baritone lead roles. So when he's hitting those higher notes, it needs to have that like masculine, like
that like fullness.
Like he
Not the
can't.
Star Spangled Banner.
I was
Canadian Spangled Banner.
And that's how I felt that way about his voice as well on the opening song, like the I have sailed the world, like that's supposed to like go through you, because Sweeney has this like operatic voice and he ain't got that. But also, again, it's a Tim Burton movie, so he was never not going to have his wife and Johnny Depp. That was always going to be was going to be the leads. That's the lead in every Tim Burton movie, you know, even though she sent 12 audition tapes, it was still going to be that, you know what I mean? Like it was just a formality. Also, I do find it fun that he's grooming for his grooming. Grooming a child. He's grooming for the girl he's grooming. So
wow.
Gross.
Wow.
So many levels of disgusting.
If Tim Burton could have somehow snuck Danny Elfman
I know.
into the music booth, he would have. He's very much a creature of nature.
As it is, this is one of two movies that Danny Elfman did not score of Tim Burton's.
The one last thing I'm gonna, we haven't gotten to a Little Priest yet, but it's like those very difficult harmonies I was talking about that like I struggled with and like almost couldn't do. They're not singing those in the movie. Like they're not there. Like they're cut, and that to me is indicative of like they had to dumb down his work for who they had. So it's like, she still like couldn't deliver on those harmonies, and not just her, Johnny as well. Like neither of them, Johnny in everything is singing the melody, and that's not true for if you look at the actual score, he doesn't always sing the melody. Sometimes he has harmonies as well, but they simplify it because they have film actors who, again, that's why you gotta go see the live show. But I'll stop being that person. I'll stop being that.
I love that, because one of the things about the adaptation that I do like is the way that they like highlight the orchestra and really use it to like, they really let it swell in a way that like I feel like movie musicals that have been made after this have like tried to tamp down a little bit, and I do not like that.
So can I just mention something that I read? It's funny that you say that, because I did read that the score was reorchestrated by the stage musical's original orchestrator, Jonathan Tunick, who increased the orchestra from 27 musicians to 78.
Fuck yes, get him in there.
Which, when you have that many orchestra pieces, you don't necessarily have to have the vocalists doing
exactly.
Instruments do that. So yeah, I mean, I don't think those harmonies are missing. I just know like they're not singing them. That's all.
Well, and what I was gonna say, the other part of that though is that like I often want that. Like I want a really beautifully captured version of the song as it's performed on stage, which is beautiful. And like I wish, you know, we can get everything we want.
But like, it's the Russell Crowe effect, right? Where it's like, do you always need to have a great singer in every role? You know, let's talk about Alan Rickman for a second, because he's definitely warbling his way through this thing.
Yeah.
I will say the highlight of him singing for me is in Pretty Women, when he just throws off those.
Yeah. I love the best moment is Pretty as a Mother. What? What was that? What did you just say?
What on earth do you mean by
That's
that?
a
You'll
great-
rue the day.
You shall rue the day you found out my plot.
Here, I'll edit this like I got it right the whole time, but there's 3 movies of Tim Burton's that Danny Elfman has not scored, and they're Ed Wood, this, and Mrs. Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children.
He must have been busy for Ed Wood because that seems perfect
Right?
Right?
for him to do.
Yeah.
It must have been like at the Simpsons studios. Just, but yeah, no, he would have snuck him in this movie if he could.
Yeah.
If it wasn't already perfect, the music.
They're shot literally one of the opening shots of the movie when the camera is moving way too fast down the street of London in that Tim Burton way. I just started singing the Beetlejuice theme.
It was very Beetlejuicy. Yes. That's a great catch. And again, this is another instance of weaving 2 songs, how they bring in Pretty Women and My Friends.
Mm-hmm.
I just love those subtle changes.
Well, but he's not going to get to kill Turpin here.
No, they're interrupted by Wafey Anthony.
By the flag.
Who just like right by the red flag himself.
By the red flag, Mr. Red Flag.
Who like runs into the room shouting out his secret plan, like as if he's never done any secret plan before in his life. And so Turpin is enraged, renounces Todd's services in just some beautiful, like doesn't just leave, takes the time to like slap him a little bit and then leaves.
This is the intro of Todd's rage too. I think it's the first time we really see him go nuts.
This is like
the song
this
Epiphany
is like
is going to happen next, and that's where he just really goes wild.
Yeah.
And he figures out that he's gonna that the streets of London are plagued with rats, but not anymore because they all need a shave, and he's gonna bring them in and take them out one by one.
Just want to throw in real quick. I'm always amazed in the live versions of how they show murders. And actually, when I saw it at Beacon Street Theater in New York, the stage was built for this musical, and so they had an upstairs built on stage and a big red light, and that's what signified each murder. So Todd would take someone upstairs. Every time the red light flashed, that would signify somebody getting their head chopped off.
That's interesting because, and I guess we didn't talk about it with the Pirelli murder, but the Pirelli murder and every other murder after is brutal. I mean, it is very gory. It is blood spurting, and that's, Tim Burton doesn't do a lot of R-rated stuff. Honestly, that's sort of his whole thing is like, it's spooky, but your kids will like it, and
right.
And so for him to make this choice, I mean, and basically what he said is he's like, these murders needed to be gory because they're Todd's release. And whenever I've seen a production where it's just like, someone throws a red handkerchief out of their throat or whatever, like he's like, I feel like it robs Todd of some of his sort of release.
That's a messy cleanup in a live version. So
That's true.
That was just blood everywhere, all through linen birds. Yeah, that was wild.
And right after Epiphany, we get the song
A Little Priest.
Yeah.
Mrs. Lovett's gonna get the idea they're trying to figure out what to do with Pirelli's body, and Mrs. Lovett gets the idea to bake them into pie. And we see the song A Little Priest, and then we get this like shot of instead of like having an intermission closer, we get this shot of him building the rig for his barber chair so that the victims' bodies will drop all the way down to the bakehouse.
How do y'all feel about them signifying it in that way with the big zoom out? Do y'all feel like that, really hit it? Because in the live version, of course, like that big note happens, but this zoom out that Tim Burton used, how do y'all feel about that?
It's just a different, like I feel different in each version. When I end with like the big chorus note, I'm like, fuck yeah, even I'm a little excited for these murders. What's gonna happen? And then
Right. Yeah.
But the zoom out is sort of like, it's more of like I'm taking a breath. Like I'm not so much in it.
It's apples and oranges again.
Yes.
Two different things. Just two different things.
It's priests and actors.
Right.
If you had to choose between 2 big notes to end before intermission, would you choose Sweeney Todd or the big note from Wicked?
Oh wow.
Ooh.
Sometimes she doesn't fly, and the chorus in Wicked has to throw themselves on the ground to pretend that she's up high. You gotta look it up on YouTube. Like defying gravity, rig doesn't fly. It is so funny because you just see the chorus. Look at her! She like they just throw themselves onto the ground so to create the effect that she is up.
Can I just say,
you gotta be creative.
I just want to say about A Little Priest that so this musical is more of an opera, and it is more there's not a lot of like bops and there's not a lot of like breakaway pop hits. But to me, A Little Priest is like fully the first song, one of the only, I'll say, like start to finish songs in the whole thing, and it's right when you need it, and it's very funny throughout. It's like, you know, it all rhymes, but it's basically like the priest will taste fresher because it doesn't take part in sins of the flesh. You know, the actor always arrives overdone. You know, Stephen Sondheim's just giggling to himself like, I'm going to make the actors talk about how actors would taste bad. Ha ha ha.
It's super meta.
Yeah.
It's meta. It's social commentary. That's what made me love this and really get it from a classist standpoint. Like, it's just laid out and it has the comedy in it. It's just perfect to me. And the live version, the longer version, is just forget about it.
I do think like if it went on any longer in the movie, it would be a little too long. I think that
we get it.
Yeah, it's like the joke lasts exactly for as long as a joke in a movie can last in the movie.
Wait, are we attending the tale of Sweeney Todd? Oh, okay, because there was no chorus in the beginning. I didn't know what we was at. I thought we was in Seville. This is the Sweet Street.
Man, there's a lot of singing barbers.
There's a lot of barber work.
The quartets.
The quartets, yes. That's the intermission.
That's the intermission. Oh, you know what I did want to say about the zoom out is that we get a little shot of Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett doing the characters from the poster, the little like cartoon shot, and that's really cute. That's
they mirror the original Broadway poster. Like you mentioned, after this, he starts to build the chair, and then he starts just slaughtering people left and right while him and Anthony, who's walking through the streets, sing about Joanna together. But the one thing I want to mention about the chair here is that every production I've ever seen of the chair slides forward so that the actors can go down the slide into, you know, ostensibly into Mrs. Lovett's bakehouse. But in the movie, the chair goes backwards and all these people land. It hurts my neck. They all land on their heads in such a way where it's like, oh, if the throat slit didn't kill them, surely that fall will, because they're going to break their necks.
CTE at this point.
Every fall. We'll get them in the long run.
If I don't make them into a pie, I'll make sure they can't remember their daughter's name.
Man, you're gonna come in. You're gonna leave different. That's for sure.
In the Joanna reprise, I do feel like it goes a little long, but I like that it cuts back and forth between him all like wistful and magical and in love, and him just like fucking brutally murdering people and sending them down headfirst to their death. I think that those juxtapositions are really nice.
Yeah, Todd's like, I wonder what you'll look like. Will you have your beautiful blonde hair? Blah.
Right.
Yeah.
We also get
about Anthony.
Yeah,
I never cared about Anthony.
Yeah,
I didn't, and I don't. Well, I was even gonna say that the thing that I like about this song is that it gives an opportunity for us to see the beggar woman again, because I feel like that's something that we miss in getting a lot of the more exposition-y bits cut out, is that like that's how she sort of is interwoven, and that's why I know. I like them. I like that they keep this and we get the chance to see it here.
Is this when she's singing about City on Fire? I do like that.
Sign of the devil. Sign of the devil.
That part always kills me now because I saw in Chicago like a live immersive production of that my friend was in, and my friend's an a-hole. He's like, oh, sit in this exact seat. And so then in the live show, the chorus sings it. And so he's right next to me in my face going, smoke, smoke, smoke. And I was like, I knew it was like not an appropriate time to laugh, but like your best friend in your face, like in your ear, just sign it out, sign it out. I was like, now my brain's broken and I laugh when I hear that.
So meanwhile, the meat pies are going great.
I mean,
And
hotcakes.
hotcakes.
Hot pie.
Mrs. Lovett has a whole new dress now. It's fancy
Good.
and like ruffled and beaded. And she takes baby Toby as her assistant and sings a song to Todd about her plans to marry him and move to the seaside. And I would like to start off this conversation with some notes about Tim Burton's color work, because the whole thing, this whole movie has been in like blue and grayscale, except for like Pirelli's pee that was yellow and then all the blood. And like now we get this like the world is colorful and the two of them are black and white, but then when they're in the fantasy, they switch. It's so good.
It's so jarring how it cuts to like this beautiful blue sky in her fantasy.
Yeah, of course, Angela did it best, but you know, Helena she's at least trying to make it about Sweeney, as opposed to the actress who shall not be named, who's just going down by the sea. Like, this isn't about you. Nothing is about Mrs. Lovett. Nothing.
Jamie is silently raging on behalf of Patti LuPone.
Just like it's just like, at least do you like him?
To comfort Patty like that.
Like,
No,
I would stop if I was a director. Like, hey, you know you like Sweeney Todd, right? He's in the scene with you. Like, he should be ignoring you. Like, and they did that great with the hand gestures on the beach and like.
Yeah, he sort of just like stays still.
Also, we get to see Johnny Depp in one of those full body swimsuits that men used to wear back then.
My Animal Crossing guy has one like that.
love that.
It's perfect with the hair. It's just all tight.
Now I gotta go rewatch Patti LuPone performing right up to me. 'Cause I'm like,
I mean,
but maybe she is. Maybe she isn't engaging with him enough. But I do think maybe the reason why she steps away, because her acting choice is that she's in her head, seeing it in her head.
even in her head, it's supposed to be about Todd. Even in her fantasy. Her fantasy is
about Todd. So maybe she walked away from him because she's like seeing all of it happen.
nah.
And
She don't
he's
have no
affected.
epiphany like that. All her epiphanies are about this is gonna make Todd love me. That's her only epiphany. The only thing she need to be thinking about is Todd and that purse.
You sound like one of those like podcasts where it's like, you low value females need to understand.
Oh, you gonna play the female card? That's low. That is low. It's about me right now, Jamie. You just like Patti LuPone, which is a diss and a compliment at the same time.
Yeah, you just told a theater actress that
just
she's
like
like Patti
Patti.
LuPone.
That's the problem.
Tony Award winner. You're just like Tony Award winner Patti LuPone.
Yeah. Less Patty, more Jamie.
To that point, though, something that I love is that this is her fantasy, and yet even in her fantasy, Todd could not be less into her. You can't make him be into her. The only time that we have seen him show any sort of affection towards her is when she comes up with the idea to get rid of the bodies in her pies. And then all of a sudden he's smiling and he's dancing with her. I mean, it's an abusive relationship straight up, but she is also lying to him about his wife being dead, basically. And you know, that again, not to
Classic everybody sucks here.
Classic Johnny Depp is in a relationship where everybody sucks.
I would
That one I endorse.
Just the enunciation of that line of what a nice plum frame. What's his name? Had what, and like like that. She nailed. I know they had to work with her a lot on that, but she really nailed it.
I love Helena Bonham Carter. I think she's one of this, well, not this nation, but some nations' great actors. And I can't believe she wasn't nominated for an Oscar for this, honestly, which Johnny Depp was.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Johnny
He
Depp
got
was
an
not.
Oscar
No,
nomination?
he was nominated. Yes.
He got an Oscar nom and she didn't.
That's wild.
After all my apples and oranges talk, that actually pisses me the fuck off. She had
It's about Todd. How many times I gotta say it's about Todd? You and Patty, how many times I got to tell you this is not Mrs. Mooney Demon Pie Maker of Fleet Street. It's Sweeney Todd.
So Angela Lansbury was kind of a Broadway star when Sondheim asked her to, or whoever, Harold Prince or whoever asked her to be in this play. And she's like, look, you're asking me to be second banana. It's not called Nellie Lovett's Pies. It's called The Demon Barber of Fleet Street. And so you need to write me some more jokes and you need to write me some more stuff. And that's how he writes the song A Little Priest. He writes it when
awesome.
he demands funnier stuff for her to do.
And she snapped. That was great.
Yeah.
Amen.
Wait, real quick. Did she get a Tony? Did she get a Tony for Sweeney Todd?
She did. She and Lynn Carriou both won Tonys. Yeah, and as well as the writers, both writers, the director.
Okay, so we do have to talk about Wafy Anthony for a minute, because this is like the reason that he's here is that now his plot intersects with our main plot. Anthony has figured out where Joanna is hidden in an insane asylum, and that's probably not Bedlam asylum,
a crazy house.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to say it. So Todd comes up with this plan. He tells Anthony to pretend to be a wig maker because that will get him into Bedlam, because that's where they get all the wig hair. And when we do get there, they're like sorted by hair color, the human people.
Classic, insane asylum stuff. You put the redheads in one room, you put the brunettes in one room, put the blondes in one room.
So
you know that redhead room too is a madhouse.
Lit. It's lit.
We also get a really good shot of all those blonde women murdering the guy who's keeping them captive, though. So that's nice.
Yeah, because Anthony pulls a gun out of nowhere.
He steals you, Joanna.
He does finally. He finally commits to his promise that he threatened to do so many times and steals her. And he leaves the wig maker insane asylum guy. I'm not sure, were we really letting businesses intersect in this way, where you were just getting wigs from? But anyways,
I don't know that it was like a known practice. I think that's maybe
it was a little side business.
I do wonder if the original writer was alluding to Nellie Bly when he named Nellie Lovett, because that's a little, her whole woman's insane asylum thing. I wonder if there's any crossover there.
I'm not sure if Mrs. Lovett was like in the story in 1846 or if she was just inserted into it in the 1970s. I really don't know.
Interesting.
But so anyways, Anthony rescues Joanna, and the captor proceeds to not defend himself even though he's holding a pair of scissors.
Yeah. Oh, he knows how to cut his hair. He don't know how to cut people or defend himself. All I do is make wigs. I'm just the wig maker. I'm just the appraiser.
Clark with a great Sopranos reference.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you got it.
Oh, yeah. I won't miss the Sopranos reference. I dropped one in our Dear Evan Hansen episode, so you know that there is. I will always force one in if I can.
Vicky wig maker. I'm just the wig maker.
Send Fish Lamana in there to get her.
Come
out of that asylum for sure.
Now we got to do a whole other Sopranos episode. We good.
Someone make a Sopranos musical.
I think that's my calling. What is my calling if not that? To write the Sopranos musical.
Pretty good point. So that's only half of the scheme, though, because Todd has simultaneously sent baby Toby. I keep saying Tony because of the Office episode. Todd has sent baby Toby to deliver a letter to Judge Turpin, basically saying Anthony's going to bring Joanna here, come here and you'll get her back. He's luring him. And Toby does that, but then goes back to Mrs. Lovett and vows to protect her and tells her that he is like growing weary of Mr. Todd.
No one's gonna harm you, not while I'm around.
This like
that line is that note is funny to me though, because it goes from low to high so quickly. Like you're just overdoing like homeless kid. You're doing Annie.
Oliver.
Yeah, Oliver. You know it's Oliver.
Oliver Twist. Can I have some more pie?
Also, pie, sir.
Worth mentioning is that I did notice that also I do think that worth mentioning is the drinking game of this podcast. Whenever I say that, drink. But is that I think that in a lot of versions of the stage musical, Toby is more depicted as a mentally challenged adult than a child.
Yeah.
Like there's a Well, there's a 1999 concert cast that is the most 1999 cast where Kelsey Grammer plays Sweeney Todd,
goodness.
Christine Baranski plays Mrs. Lovett, and Neil Patrick, a 27-year-old Neil Patrick Harris plays Toby.
Skeet Ulrich is the Beatles.
Yeah, I like that Toby's an actual child. That kind of reminds me of how like in the End of the Woods movies they made Jack and Little Red children as well. I think it's something that Sondheim stage shows, yeah, they usually have like adults who look young playing children. And it's like, I don't know why it's like that. Maybe it's because it's like contracts are more expensive in equity for children.
Mhm.
And it's like hard because you have to cast like 4 or 5 children for one role.
Sure.
So like I could see like, from a financial standpoint why it would make sense to have adults. But on screen, I think it read better for him to be a child. And also like spoilers coming, but like you get to see like, because like, yeah, he's probably going to grow up to be a Todd having lived through all that shit that he saw. The ending, I think, is foreshadowing of like his nurture has now made Toby become a monster at some point.
I mean, he was not living the best life before Todd either, but he's truly out of the frying pan and into the barber's chair. Because I mean, he was in a workhouse, and then Pirelli adopts him, and he abuses him, and then I mean, Mrs. Lovett is the best thing he has going. He messes that up by being on to Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, he's gonna have some mommy issues, I think. And I just,
Gonna.
you know, wherever he is, I hope he's okay. You know, I know he's a fictional character, but I am worried. I am worried about this fictional character's future.
Jamie, the fictional character even is long dead. I need you to know that.
I just want to know how they fared through the 1880s.
And what's more, he's my great-great-grandfather.
So Beetle goes first, right? Is this
Yeah,
Beetle
so
goes?
Beetle arrives now, and Mrs. Lovett has locked Toby in the bake room in the basement. And Beetle arrives. He informs Mrs. Lovett that people have been complaining about the stink from her chimney. And Todd distracts him with an offer of free grooming and then just like murders him off screen. Like it's just like it's so unceremonious that he at this point had just like gotten in the way.
No one's complaining that someone they know went to get a shave
Right?
from this very popular barber who's everyone's raving about his cuts. Nobody has seen them. It's all word of mouth. It's all reputation, which is amazing. It's like
Maybe it's just that one guy he shaved in the Pirelli contest who's like an influencer. And that's how he gets all of his business, because that's the one guy who lives.
everybody's like, "Hey, you smell that? You don't smell that?" Anyway, it's 339 Fleet Street. Go upstairs. I know I smell something, but I just can't place the smell. It's like pie and shit. Anyway,
And then, like, also for that matter, how about how Judge Turpin is like, oh yeah, this place where I'm going for a shave is the same place where that guy I had sent away used to live, who was also a barber and also had a face like this. Oh well, yeah, just shave me right here, please.
he's new in town, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely will go with no security to
Right.
check that out because I don't have any enemies. It's not like people hate me.
Here I stand. I mean, he sees himself as untouchable. Clearly, I think that's the whole point of him being like, "Here I stand" and all that. You kill me, boy. Here I stand.
Okay, so Toby is now hiding in the sewers. Mrs. Lovett and Todd search for him a little bit. Meanwhile, Anthony brings Joanna, who is disguised as a sailor, into the shop and has her wait there while he leaves to find a carriage. And a beggar woman enters the shop looking for Beetle Pettigrew, is what I have written down. And so Joanna hides in the trunk, and then Todd returns from the sewers. Beggar woman is in his shop. The beggar woman recognizes him, but then Todd sees Turpin coming, knows that this is his moment, and so he kills the beggar woman and sends her down through the trapdoor.
Brutal.
Brutal.
So then Judge Turpin comes in. Like, we don't even have a moment to breathe and like absorb it. It's very rough.
Turpin's in for the shave because he knows Joanna's downstairs, or he thinks Joanna's downstairs.
And Turpin recognizes Todd in like the one moment. I really like they give us a
Benjamin
little-
Barker.
Peter Pettigrew.
Peter Pettigrew.
I love that they give us a little
He
Pretty
took
Woman
that to
reprise, and we get back to that climax moment that we
Pretty
had.
Woman, yeah, the quickness.
Yeah.
He could just kill him also, but drama.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. You gotta save
Melodrama
it.
even. Nothing mellow about this drama.
Oh, he doesn't even slash. He stabs him.
It's the most brutal. And I mean, again, if we're going with these are his releases, this has got to be his biggest release. And we definitely see that. It's a lot of blood, a lot of slashing.
That is very true.
And then still somehow, despite all the slashing and despite the fall onto his fucking crown, he's still alive when he gets to the bottom of the chute, long enough just to cling to Mrs. Lovett's dress.
There's a quick moment where we think that Todd is going to find Joanna in the box, and he finds her, and we think he's going to kill her, but then we get that scream from Mrs. Lovett, and so he lets her go, and then that's it. We don't see them again. We just assume made it out alive.
Yeah, it doesn't really ring true to me that he just lets her go.
Right?
When he's really on a tear right here.
He's been killing so many people.
But that release was enough. Maybe that was
that's interesting.
And
yeah.
Now you can put it because there's different types of psychopaths. Like I think since he's a revenge-based psychopath, like now that he's done the big one, he can probably put the thing up for a few years and call it a day.
So you're saying he's in his refractory period.
That's a great point, Jamie, about revenge based, because he ain't done, but he's done killing motherfuckers who ain't did shit to him.
Yeah,
he's done with that part.
Right.
But if you did something, but wait, there's more.
And I did this when we watched it earlier today. I said to Steph, I was like, "What would his life be if he were to make it out of this? Like, what would he just move on, or would he still keep doing what he's doing? I don't know.
I don't think there is a way.
Yeah, it kind of seems like he would just kill himself. I mean, right?
Well, I mean, okay, so spoiler
he thinks
alert.
Joanna's coming.
He goes down to the basement and they kill Turpin finally, I think. Then he looks up and sees the beggar woman from before and realizes that it's his wife, Lucy, and that Mrs. Lovett has deliberately misled him in her desperation. And then he flips a switch and dances with her, pretending to forgive her, but really is dancing her so that he can hurl her into the bakehouse oven and shut the door.
And there was a reprise of
By the Sea. Yeah.
And it's a little bit of Priest too, I think.
Priest too, yeah. So sort of a few things, yeah. And he just hurls her in there. We get to see her face melting a little bit because Tim Burton's like, fuck it, I got the R rating. I may as well show her melting.
Might as well go crazy.
Yeah.
Her line of, never said she died, is one of my let me stop you right there. Never said she died.
Technically.
And then right after that, she's like, can we still get married?
Yeah. That's great.
I love that never said she died, but I also love before that the panic of you've seen people go that no, not lied at all. No, I never lied. And then just how it musically gets faster as she's burying her fucking grave. Love it. You love
it. So Mrs. Lovett is dead and closed into the oven. And then he just kind of kneels down, cradles Lucy's dead body, and then baby Toby appears and Todd stretches out his neck and just sort of is
kind of think Todd knows that Toby's behind him and knows that this is the moment, so he gives it up.
It ain't nothing left.
Yeah,
right?
He gave his daughter away to the red flag, which was bold, and there's nothing left for him to do. Ain't shit left.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad. There's really nothing left now.
The last lyrics we hear, he just does a little, and she was beautiful, and he was, and then that's it. They leave that part unfinished, and that feels so appropriate to me.
Toby, not only he cuts his neck, and as he bleeds out brutally, the blood. He bleeds onto his dead wife, and the blood just starts to cover her face. It's pretty brutal.
That was Tim Burton. Really, that was just
feeling himself.
Once you open up that vault, man, it's hard to close it, I guess.
Yeah.
Or the neck gash.
And that's it. That's where we end. That's the credits.
I guess this is maybe another moment where we don't have any chorus giving us the morality envelope or telling us what we're supposed to take away from the tale of Sweeney Todd. And I just would like us to think about that for a moment.
There was no big hug. There was no big hug at the end. No redeeming.
Yeah.
There's
I
no
got
and that's
that.
why you don't be a barber.
Yeah, and that's why you
Steph,
don't
is that
walk
what
through
you
a
think the
garden with
moral
your
of the
wife.
story is?
I think it's a slippery slope.
There's
Moral is
no whatever
London
you
sucks.
offer them, don't feed the plant. I think you guys should
Yeah,
say that.
yeah.
There's no don't feed the plant. There's no I feel like the moral of this story is I guess just don't have a hot wife in the 1800s. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like it sounds like unfortunately that's the whole thing. Like don't be of low rank and have a hot wife.
Yeah,
Or your
if you
life
do,
is
you got to
Right.
keep her with the
Yeah.
other blondes at the insane
I might as
asylum.
well take her.
Get a brunette, get you a crazy brunette.
It's like that one guy once said, if you want to be happy for the rest of your life, never make a pretty woman your wife.
Wow, who said that?
Jimmy something. So from my personal point of view, get an ugly woman to marry you. Jimmy Soul, if you want to be happy for the rest of your life, never make a pretty woman your wife. So from my personal point of view, get an ugly girl to marry you, and she was beautiful.
I do like that they cut it before he can sing and he was naive because it's like, yeah, he's no longer naive. He's the fucking opposite of
yes.
naive at this point.
Okay.
I
Well,
ain't so dumb.
we've talked a lot. We've talked a lot about the casting. So let's talk about if we were to do this again today. Do you guys have casts in mind that you would put in these roles?
The perfect Pirelli would be Mateo Lane.
Wow. Yes.
Oh, shit, I
Yes.
love that. I love that.
Chicago comedy expat, but one of the most talented people and a voice like a motherfucker.
Definitely.
Wow. And Italian.
And Italian, right? He would have to get an English accent.
Yeah.
You don't remember me, do you?
Don't remember me to you. He can do it. I'm sure he can do it. All right. I'm going to have my agents get in touch with Mateo. What about for Sweeney and Mrs. Lovett?
I just want somebody who's more campy for Mrs. Lovett is
Mhm.
all. I don't know why this immediately came to my mind, but I was like, I kind of would love to see Leslie Jones do it just because
Oh, wow.
she would be wild with it.
She would make wild choices.
She would make wild choices and it would make it like, because it's already, everything in it is so heavy. I just think you need as much of that levity. I did say Emma Thompson earlier. Emma Thompson has done some like concert versions of it and done really great.
I don't know if she can sing at all, but I think Viola Davis would be a great.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think she can do anything, honestly. She sang in the movie Chadwick didn't win an Oscar for.
Oh yeah, Ma Rainey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But the movie,
She would do.
that's forever what that movie is. The movie where Chadwick Boseman did not win an Oscar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I would see someone like again, it's all about the growl for me for Sweeney Todd. So I mean, like Ray Winstone is someone who has that great British growly voice. I mean, he did play Growl Tiger in Cats, and he's like age appropriate to Emma Thompson, to where they can be opposite each other. I mean, Emma Thompson is great because we need more Harry Potter alums in this thing.
Are you pro or against Tom Hardy as an actor?
Oh, I like Tom Hardy. Again, Tom Hardy is someone who to me can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, he could do this. As we talk about rebooting this thing, there's something that musical movie reboots always do, which is they introduce one new song so that they can get nominated for the Best Original Song Oscar. And that's what we do every time we talk about rebooting a movie. I have a song here that I am pitching to insert into the next version of Sweeney Todd. We did bump this recording up like a week earlier than we would have done it normally because of Clark's busy touring schedule. So that cut out the week where I would normally like do my first bad idea and then realize it doesn't work and then go with another idea. So I didn't have that time for this. So instead I just went with my first bad idea. And that's the time where I would normally like work with the song, make sure it sounded better, make sure it sounded like it belonged in the musical. But I didn't have the time to do all that. So I'll let the listener judge on their own merit. I will say I have it. So it's a new character. Basically, here's my thought. What if late in the movie, the killings are happening, they're being turned into pies. And what if we meet a new character who is a down on his luck, desperate health inspector who has to find one restaurant to close or else he's going to get fired, right? And I went ahead and cast him for this demo as Ian McKellen, and you guys don't have to be muted for this either. You can be you can have your mics on and react if you want, and you can tell me how much you love it or hate it afterwards. But let's I'm gonna go ahead and play it now so I don't have to talk about it anymore. The song is called Worst Inspector, I think it's called Worst Inspector. Okay, here we go. Another day then. Oh, life isn't fair. Oh, when you wear the emblem of a health inspector, it's fairly rare to get care shopkeepers think I want to disrespect or shut them down. So in town, I can't get a plate of bangers without chance of spit. They omit something in my order every time. Now my job is on the line. Oh my. My boss says I'm a nice guy, but I've never found a violation. I don't turn a blind eye. I'm not skilled at my chosen station. The blokes at work call me jerk. I've never met a single quota. So today, I must say to a restaurant that it's closing time, or else my ass is on the line. I'm the worst inspector, I've had zero luck. My boss thinks me inept, my kids think I'm a cuck. They think I'm on the take, but I'm trying my best today. A place must close, it is my final test. I'm defined as half blind, but only by my optometrist. Really, I can see quite fine. It doesn't affect. Oh, sorry, that's my fault. Sorry.
Watch where you're going, you fucking twat!
I'm the worst inspector in all of UK. Every greasy spoon I search receives an A. Pre-Victorian London just seems clean to me. Some say I can't beat this daft. I say I could be. So that's it, someone must fall. I'll health inspect with zero mercy. They call me Tit, but they'll all laud me with no controversy. After I fleetly fly through shops and find all violations, they'll all see I will be the best inspector in the nation today. A restaurant will fall. Let's see what's on the list today. Mrs. Lovett's meat pies. Surely something is askew in there. Time for your comeuppance to arrive, Mrs. Lovett! Damn, couldn't find anything wrong with that place. Oh well, off to the next. The end.
I'm a big fan.
You like it? All right, you like it
I
more
loved
than
it. The homage with the dark turn at towards the end, that was very much in line with Sondheim. Next time, try Ass on the Line at Stephanie.
I also, it lended itself to the Burton world as well, because some of those, like, when it was like, duh, you had a part where your voice went, da, 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 and it reminded me of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, it's funny that you say that. I stole the chorus chords from Nightmare Before Christmas.
I love that.
Ironically.
It's fitting. It's fitting because it's a Tim Burton made content.
Yeah.
Wow, glad that you caught that. I've stolen a couple of chord progressions, and you're the first person to call one out on the podcast, and I'm a big fan of that. Well, this is as good a time as any to tell the listener that all of the songs that you hear on Musical, the Movie, the Podcast, we do one every week, and they're all available at our Patreon, which is the Patreon for the Dumb Fun family of podcasts at patreon.com/dumbfun. That houses 30 characters as well as Fanny Falls Demon Hunter. And all those songs are there, not just that one, but also some good ones. And you can support us for as little as $2 a month. Steph's in nursing school, you guys. I'm going to milk that for all it's worth. Help us out. Go in there. Give us a little bit of money, and we greatly appreciate it. Clark, is there anything that you'd like to plug for the month of October and beyond?
If you love music, I put together an artist playlist for Spotify in their new BIPOC series, where they interviewed me and talked about how music affects life. So be on the lookout for that.
Nice.
Cool.
That's incredible. What about you, Jamie? What you got coming up?
Well, I just want to say I'm really excited to listen to that later. Clark, I do have a show at the Lincoln Lodge in Chicago on Halloween, October 31st, called Boo You Horror. So if you like Halloween and you like doing fun things on Halloween, if you go to my Instagram or my website, which is jamiestrandner.com, you can get tickets and come see that. And
what is that show going to be?
So it's myself. I have Liam Nelson, who's an Atlanta comic, who's opened for Sam Morril and Dusty Slay, who I'm going to be doing a run with. Like, that's our first show of the run. And then I also have Max Price from St. Louis coming in, and Victoria Vincent, who just
Always
did
funny.
JFL New Faces.
Oh,
Very
talented. Yeah.
We're going to have some like Halloween trivia, costume contest. I'm going to give out candy.
So it'll be a stand-up driven show, it sounds like, but Jamie is no normal stand-up. She always has a number of songs involved her. She's her musicality extends to her stand-up comedy career. And with that, she's become one of the great comics in the scene and certainly in this great nation. Steph, is there anything that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, I'd like to plug having a long conversation with someone that you haven't had a chance to do that with in a couple of years. I got to do that this weekend and it was really nice.
Nice.
That's it. That's my plug.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's always nice when you ask non-comics to plug things because they, they just tell you to be a nice person. Yeah, and then I'll just say as well, in Louisville, we'll be doing the roast of true crime on Halloween weekend, October 28th and 29th. I'm probably going to be playing McGruff the Crime Dog on that show. We just had the roast of vampires yesterday at the Laugh Factory Chicago, so that was a fun show. I'm trying to think of what else is coming up. It doesn't matter. Just follow me on Twitter, Andy Fleming, and follow Steph at Storpsmop, spelled just how it smells. No, spelled just how it sounds. And tweet at us and let us know what movies you want to hear. I don't know if I mentioned this, but this is the beginning of our Spooky October, where we're going to be doing 3 spooky musicals for all 3 of our episodes in October. So I guess I'll just say right now that our next episode will be Phantom of the Opera.
Fuck yes, I'm so excited.
I guess I need a year on this because we need to make sure people watch the right one. I think it's 2004. Yeah, we're doing the 2004 Gerard Butler not helmed, but certainly starring Phantom of the Opera. Oh, wow. I did not know Emmy Rossum and Patrick Wilson were in this. I've heard Minnie Driver is great in it. I'm excited to see it. I think that's it, you guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jamie and Clark.
Thank you for having me.
This was amazing. This was so much fun.
Such a delight. Not two better people that we could have to discuss this musical. I can't wait to have you both back. Bye, guys.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Musical the Movie the Podcast. Musical the Movie the Podcast. Musical the Movie the Podcast with Andy and Steph. Fun, dumb.